Most people think the secret to stopping gambling is more willpower, but it's not. You've probably even been there before, telling yourself you just need to try harder, you just need to be stronger, or you just need more discipline. For a while, it works. You delete the apps, tell yourself it's over, and you swear this time will be different. Then payday hits, stress piles up, and before you know it, you're back where you started, feeling ashamed and blaming yourself for not having enough strength. It's like trying to plug a volcano with a cork. The pressure always wins, because you can't outmuscle the eruption. You have to change what's boiling underneath. And what you're about to learn in this video will show you exactly how to finally break free. Because the truth about addiction isn't what most people think. And once you see it, you'll never look at willpower the same way again. It's a realization that changed everything for me. Back in 2009, during my undergrad in sociology, I worked as a personal trainer. Every day I'd watch people chase control, counting every calorie, pushing themselves on the treadmill, and chasing that perfect version of themselves. When they hit their goals, they'd feel unstoppable. But the second they slipped, missed a workout, broke the diet, the shame would hit just as hard. It was like their entire sense of worth was tied to staying in control. And although I didn't realize it at the time, that same pattern shows up in gambling. You win, you feel powerful, like you've mastered something no one else can. Then you lose and that power slips into shame, so you chase the next win just to prove you're still in control. But just like the gym, control can work temporarily, but it's ultimately missing a deeper underlying need. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at the time, but I felt compelled to dig deeper. By 2011, the culture of willpower had gone mainstream. Weight loss reality shows like The Biggest Loser were everywhere. Dramatic weigh-ins, people collapsing on treadmills, vomiting after grueling workouts. Pain became our badge of honor. At the time, I was in grad school and I was studying this exact phenomenon. I wanted to understand why discipline had become our culture's favorite virtue and why dramatic displays of self-control had become proof of self-worth. The message was simple. You want to be respected? Suffer harder. If you slip, it's not because you're human, it's because you're weak. And the message steeped into everything, even the way we think about addiction. Because when you're gambling, the story you tell yourself sounds exactly the same. If you just try harder, you'll win it back. If you can't stop, you're weak. But both stories miss the truth. The problem isn't the lack of willpower, it's a lack of nourishment. And that realization was a turning point for me. After finishing my master's, I went on to study something completely different, or at least I thought it was. My doctoral research was focused on military veterans returning from deployment. These are some of the most disciplined people you could ever meet. The kind of focus, structure, and self-control you'd find in a professional athlete. They woke up at dawn and trained their bodies and minds to the edge of exhaustion. But when they came home, everything changed. The mission was gone, the structure was gone, and the sense of belonging, gone. And what I found was heartbreaking. These weren't people who lacked willpower. They had mastered it. But when the purpose behind that discipline disappeared, so did their self-control. I'll always remember one of them told me, I compare the structure of the military to an F1 race car in comparison to the company I'm at now. Another said, it's hard to care about the things you should care about in civilian life. It's just an overwhelming sense that nothing mattered. And what I found was that it's like living with all horsepower and no highway, all engine and no map. You can rev the motor, but you're not going anywhere, because the transition disrupted their sense of purpose and connection. I called this phenomenon transitional injury. Not a physical wound, but an existential one. When the system that gives you meaning collapses, even the strongest willpower runs out of oxygen. And in that emptiness, many turn to something, anything that can make them feel alive again. For some, it was alcohol and cocaine. For others, gambling. Addiction isn't what happens when discipline fails. It's what happens when discipline loses its direction. When you've trained yourself to push through pain but never how to sit with it. When you've been taught to follow orders but never how to create your own purpose once the orders stop coming. That's not weakness. That's disconnection. These people were highly driven, intelligent, focused, and thrived on structure. And when that structure collapses, gambling steps in to fill the void. It made me realize that the problem wasn't discipline. It was depletion. You can have all the strength in the world, but if you've lost that purpose that gives that strength life, it's like the oxygen is gone. And what I realized was that this wasn't just about veterans. It was about all of us. Society itself has lost its mission. That's when I connected the dots between this experience and something sociologist Emil Durkheim wrote over a century ago. He said that when a society loses its shared structure, its sense of moral direction, people fall into a state called anomie. It's when the old rules stop making sense and you're left trying to create meaning out of chaos. And that's exactly what I was seeing. Not just in veterans, but in so many people today who struggle with gambling. When your sense of purpose collapses, you don't stop needing it. You just start chasing it in other places, in risk, adrenaline, and the illusion of control. And that's what gambling offers. It gives you numbers and systems that feel like order. It gives you the intensity that feels like purpose. But it's a counterfeit form of meaning, one that leaves you emptier the more you chase it. It's like drinking salt water in the desert. Every gulp feels like relief, but only deepens the thirst. The winds don't quench you. They dehydrate your soul. And upon running into this phenomenon again and again, I started to wonder why we keep chasing the things that drain us. Why we mistake stimulation for satisfaction. And that took me back to my grad school days, where I discovered Carl Rogers, one of the founders of humanistic psychology. He believed that people aren't broken. They're disconnected. And when you create the right conditions, empathy, authenticity, acceptance, people naturally start to heal. And it clicked for me. Durkheim explained what breaks us, disconnection. Rogers explained what heals us, reconnection. Addiction thrives in disconnection, and recovery begins the moment you stop trying to force control and start rebuilding connection, structure, and self-compassion. Because people don't fall into addiction from weakness. They fall when life feels disconnected. When I entered the addiction field in 2016, I heard a line that reinforced everything I'd seen. The opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. And that sentence stopped me in my tracks. It summed up what I'd witnessed again and again, from veterans to people sitting alone at 2 a.m. trying to fill the silence with a spin of the slot. Gambling doesn't just feed the hunger for excitement. It numbs the hunger for connection. And recovery starts the moment you reach out, even in the smallest way. Maybe it's telling a friend. Maybe it's showing up at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting. Maybe it's just admitting to yourself that you can't do this alone and finally getting the courage to tell a significant other. That moment, that tiny act of courage, starts to break the spell. Because every time you choose connection over isolation, the grip of gambling gets weaker. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to reach out. And that's often where people find what they've been chasing all along. Not the thrill of a win, but the quiet relief of being understood, reconnected with those who matter, and most importantly, being reconnected with themselves and their underlying needs. So if this resonates with you, know that you are not broken. You're just depleted. And depletion can be healed once you start reconnecting and meeting your underlying needs. So if you're ready to start rebuilding that meaning and direction, click the link below to apply for support. Because the goal isn't just to stop gambling. It's to start living again, to starve the habit and feed the mission. In the meantime, you can watch my next video right here where I go even deeper into how I help clients go from stuck and struggling to free and focused on what matters without relying on willpower. See you in the next one.